Hello, National University Academy students. Reviewing for your World History B course. We're finishing up the lecture here so you can get ready for your finals for this last week of school. And thank you for sticking with us throughout this first year. Okay, so I got cut off at the point of YouTube's being a bit finicky right now, so I keep getting cut off right before I'm about to wrap up a segment. So my sessions, instead of being about 9.5 to 10 minutes, they're ending at about 7 to 8.5. So let me go over the breakup of Yugoslavia. Ethnic conflict plagued Yugoslavia. This country, formed after World War I, had 8 major ethnic groups: the Serbs, Croats, Muslims, Slovenes, Macedonians, Albanians, Hungarians, and Montenegrins. Ethnic and religious differences dating back centuries caused these groups to view one another with suspicion. After World War II, Yugoslavia became a federation of 6 republics. Each republic had a mixed population. A bloody breakup. Joseph Tito, who led Yugoslavia from 1945 to 1980, held the country together. After Tito's death, ethnic resentments boiled over. Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic asserted leadership over Yugoslavia. Many Serbs opposed Milosevic and his policies and fled the country. So the question that you will be seeing in some of the topics you'll be reviewing is you're going to need to compare Yugoslavia to Czechoslovakia. And Volkov Havel on page 1040, with the breakup of Czechoslovakia, you'll see there that was much more peaceful, and then Yugoslavia was much more violent, with all of these ethnic disagreements and conflicts occurring. Slobodan Milosevic, of course, is going to be known for the ethnic cleansing of Muslims in Czechoslovakia. In Yugoslavia. How was China's future uncertain after the death of Deng Xiaoping? Basically, China's strong economy produced enormous changes. Deng's successor had no military experience, and hardline officials favored a shift away from Deng's economic policies. This is all on page 1060. The negative consequences that resulted from the Green Revolution. This isn't the Green Revolution that we think of now, with increasing miles per gallon and putting solar and wind power into use in our communities. This is more the Green Revolution of the 1960s, and this was looking for ways to increase your crop yield, get more uses out of your available crops. But the one negative issue there, one of the negatives, was it introduced dangerous chemicals and pesticides into our food products. The UN, now that we're in this post-World War II world, and the Cold War is starting to thaw, the UN, they're looking again at the UN here in chapter 36, and it says, a public forum. The UN is a public forum, private meeting places for skilled mediators and soldiers. Of course, we talked about the League of Nations before, and the UN, of course, is controversial. Some feel that it's a very successfully active force at quelling international problems, dealing with everything: hunger, poverty, peace negotiations around the world. Others see the UN as sometimes a hindrance to progress, as we saw with the forward movement toward going to war in Iraq. Some felt the UN stood in the way of the United States and that Bush went unilaterally. Others see the UN as traditionally a positive force. Basically, the truth is it's somewhere in the middle there. Actually, come to your own conclusions on that. Sometimes the UN can be very successful in its aims. Other times it is bogged down with the conflict itself. Page 1082 to review more on that. Fundamentalism and global conflicts. You want to look at it. It has led to the overthrow of secular governments. It is the main reason for some political conflicts, and it has caused some groups to resist religious restrictions. Now, non-Western ideas being opposed or put on to the West. Some of those include growth of Eastern religions, such as Islam and Buddhism, in Western countries, placing a high value on meditation and contemplation, and manners of dress and clothing style adapted from world cultures are all things that have been hoisted onto these countries as the immigrant population has changed and the nation's populations have matured after World War II. Let's see. Main reasons why people decide to immigrate to other nations. The main reason there is unstable political situations at home and prosperous economies abroad. Page 1086. The relationship between the nuclear arms race and the space race was a pivotal one in our history during the relationship between the Soviet Union and the United States. We've talked about Sputnik already. We've talked about Bay of Pigs. We've talked about nuclear face-off with the Cuban Missile Crisis and Kennedy's aspirations for the space program. Do you think the achievements in space travel and exploration would have been as remarkable without competition between the two superpowers? Please explain your answer. Some of the things you'll want to think about there should include rockets and missiles were originally developed as weapons and methods for delivering bombs. Technology for both races basically was basically the same. Advances in rocket science were applicable to both the arms race and the space race. It was probably the weapons race that drove the space race in earnest. If Americans fell behind in the space race, the U.S. would be vulnerable because the Soviets would be able to deliver intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. If you're following Kim Jong-il's actions recently, you might take note of that, to the United States. The United States would be unable to retaliate. Fear and suspicion were powerful motivations. Competition between the Soviets and the Americans probably greatly increased the speed with which advances were made. Soviet success with Sputnik shocked the United States into devoting tremendous resources to making advances in space travel. Cooperation between the superpowers might have had even better results than competition, but hostilities between the nations made cooperation impossible at the time. And of course, now we talk about the International Space Station, talk about how many nations go and explore space together in the International Space Station, and how that's been a rather successful way to interact among scientists, not always with our cultures, but at least in advancement of science. Oppressive regimes took over many of the countries of Southeast Asia after they gained independence. What are 3 reasons for this? Give examples from the text to support your answer. Communism had a strong effect in many of the countries of Southeast Asia. Leaders who were influenced by the ideology often imposed authoritarian rule. Nobody likes to hang out where they're being told what to do in a country that is oppressing them, putting them in jail, or keeping their music, their ideas, their thoughts, their beliefs oppressed and unable to be expressed. So that's going to cause for an obvious motivation among the people to fight back in Burma. General Ne Win set up a repressive military government there. Colonial powers in Southeast Asia prepared for democracy. The Dutch resisted native Indonesians' attempts to acquire higher education. There's plenty of examples you could use there. Then you want to look at what do you think of the Soviet republics, or why do you think the Soviet republics rejected the concept of unity and declared independence once the Communist Party lost control of the USSR? Check on page 1052 for more information on that. And on page 1082, how does global interdependence both improve and endanger security? Explain your answer. Talk to you soon. Good luck on your final, and have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye now.